Welcome to the Nine Souls podcast. This space is guided by a trauma-informed life coach and the founder of Nine Souls Coaching. This podcast is a dedicated space where we can explore emotional regulation in a way that feels grounded, human, and most importantly, non-pathologizing. We're not here to learn how to control our emotions, fix ourselves, or perform some kind of perfect healing journey. Instead, we're here to understand how our nervous system actually works and how building regulation creates real, meaningful choice in our lives. For today's very first episode, we're going to start with a foundational question that I think is so important. What is emotional regulation really? And maybe just as important, what is it not? What is it not? So let's dive right in. Emotional regulation is one of those terms that gets thrown around a lot, on social media, in self-help books, everywhere. But it's rarely explained in a clear, practical way. Because of this, a lot of people have come to believe that emotional regulation means staying calm all the time, never feeling too much, always controlling your reactions, or even getting rid of uncomfortable emotions altogether. But here's the thing, that's not regulation. In fact, pursuing those ideas often leads to the exact opposite. It leads to suppression, not regulation. And that's a crucial difference we're going to unpack. Let's be really clear about this. Regulation does not mean the absence of emotion. It's not about feeling less. It's about having the capacity to stay present with your emotions without being completely overwhelmed or totally shut down by them. You can be regulated and still feel anger. You can be regulated and feel deep sadness, or fear, or grief. And you can be regulated while feeling intense joy. Regulation is not about what you feel, it's about how your system holds what you feel. So let's make that important distinction between regulation and suppression even clearer. Suppression is the internal voice that says things like, I shouldn't feel this. I need to calm down right now. This emotion is too much for me. Suppression disconnects you from your body. It's an attempt to push a feeling away, to pretend it's not there. Regulation, on the other hand, sounds more like, wow, something is happening inside me right now. I can feel a shift. I can stay with this sensation for a moment. I don't need to act on it or run away from it immediately. Do you see the difference? Suppression actually narrows your capacity to feel. Regulation expands it. And I want to add something really important here. Many people suppress their feelings not because they want to, but because their nervous system learned, often very early in life, that big emotions were unsafe, overwhelming, or simply not supported by the people around them. So if you find that regulation feels difficult or even impossible, please know that's not a personal failure. That's your nervous system's history at play. To really get what emotional regulation is, we have to talk about the star of the show, the nervous system. Think of your nervous system as a highly sensitive surveillance system that is constantly, every second of every day, asking one fundamental question, am I safe right now? When your system perceives safety, it allows for all the good stuff, reflection, flexibility, curiosity, connection with others. You're in a state often called the social engagement system. But when a threat is perceived, and this threat can be real or imagined, physical or emotional, the system instantly shifts into a state of protection. This is where we see the classic survival responses: fight, flight, freeze, or even a deeper state of shutdown or collapse. In these protective states, your behavior is driven by survival, not by conscious choice. And this is exactly why insight alone, just understanding your patterns, doesn't always lead to change. You can intellectually understand why you react a certain way, you can read all the books, and you can still find yourself repeating the same patterns over and over. That's because your nervous system is responding faster than your conscious, thinking mind can even catch up. Regulation is what creates the internal conditions, the internal safety, where your insights can actually be put to use. So, where do we start? The entry point to emotional regulation is not your thinking mind. It's not a cognitive skill first. It is a body-based capacity. Your body is communicating with you constantly, through sensations like tension in your jaw or shoulders, the pace of your breath, your posture, your energy levels, that feeling of fatigue, restlessness, or even numbness. These sensations are not problems to be solved, they are information. They are your body's language. When we learn to simply notice what's happening in the body, without judging it or trying to change it immediately, something really powerful happens. The system begins to settle down. Not because we forced it to, but because it was finally heard. It was acknowledged. This is why true regulation is built through listening to your body, not by pushing it or trying to override it. So what does this all lead to? What does life look like when your capacity for regulation increases? Well, several amazing things become possible. The intensity of your emotions becomes more tolerable. Your reactions start to slow down, giving you a precious moment of pause. You start to see your old patterns emerge earlier, before they've completely taken over. And most importantly, choice becomes available. That's the real freedom. You don't stop having emotions, you stop being controlled by them. And this is especially transformative in our relationships. Think about it, dysregulation often shows up in relationships as overreacting, withdrawing completely, chronic people-pleasing, or getting defensive at the slightest hint of criticism. Regulation creates space. It creates a pause between the stimulus, what someone says or does, and your response. That tiny space is where all change lives. This philosophy is the very foundation of my work here at Nine Souls Coaching. The work isn't about fixing your behavior first. It's about supporting your nervous system so that change can happen organically and sustainably from the inside out. We use well-established frameworks in an ethical and grounded way, not to box you in or define you, but to help you recognize patterns within a regulated and supportive context. Because insight without regulation can feel incredibly overwhelming, and regulation without insight can sometimes lack direction. We need both, but regulation must always come first. So, to summarize what we've talked about today, emotional regulation is not control, it's capacity. It's the ability to stay present with your internal experience, your thoughts, your emotions, your body sensations, and respond with awareness and choice. In our next episode, we're going to explore a really common frustration, why you can know better and still react in ways you don't want to. We will look at what's actually happening in your nervous system in those moments and what truly helps. But for now, as you finish listening to this episode, I invite you to just take a moment. Pause, and simply notice what your body feels like right now. Notice your breath. Notice any areas of tension or ease. That simple act of noticing, without judgment, is where regulation begins. Thank you so much for listening to the very first episode of the Nine Souls podcast. Be sure to subscribe so you don't miss what's next.